Right, so today was basically a communication skills for young workers course run by the STUC Youth Committee and the Scottish Union Learning Fund. And basically what we were trying to do is to give the young workers that we had on the course today a taste of the changing workplace and basically how we can maybe use this change in workplace, change in technology and use it to attract young workers and to engage with them in the workplace with our unions.
Just one of the most significant social events that's happened recently in recent times since you've been born?
Well, mine was the attacks in Madrid in 2004 on the 11th of March. Basically I lived in Madrid for a year and I did have friends that were over there at the time, and it just, like I spent a lot of time there, it just completely shocked me that something like that could actually happen.
Going to Eastbourne with the United Union, that's when I met Georgina. And going to Eastbourne actually gave me an insight of what a union was and how people get affected in the world.
Mine's the bank's going bust, just billions of pounds worth of debt now it's caused. I think an example would be like Northern Rock. I mean, that's affecting people's lives now and they're still affected from it.
When they brought in television cameras to the House of Commons.
What are you saying when you join TV?
You should have heard the debate and the commotion at that time about that. I mean, you would just take it for granted now. But that's what politicians don't like, is they see power getting taken away from them.
It's my earliest memory in terms of actual sort of wider world of sort of politics and such was Margaret Thatcher being kicked out, which sort of gave me an idea of what politics was like in terms of people backstabbing. And it also formed some of my political views, realising how joyous my parents were at this occasion.
Well, basically the STUC Youth Committee is the voice of young workers in the STUC Scottish Trade Union Congress movement, and it basically gives a voice for young workers, and we actually do have a voice within the movement, which is really important.
And how do you have that voice? What's the mechanisms that gives you that voice?
Well, we're not actually an advisory service, we're basically we do have a voice. We have conferences every year, once a year. We're holding one this year in Dundee. We take motions to that conference, we pass the motions, we put them on our work plans, and then what we do is we actually take motions to Congress as well. We also have 2 youth delegates on the STUC General Council. So we have a seat there, and that's at quite a high level, so we do get a voice within the movement.
And what about Congress itself? You can take motions to Congress?
Yeah, we take motions to Congress as well. We have, I think it's a group of 5 going this year to Dundee, and we will be speaking on those motions, and we'll have them heard by, I think there's quite a lot of people that go to the Congress in Dundee, so we will have our young voice heard, and we're representing the youth of Scotland.
So obviously the STUC Youth Committee very important.
Oh, it's extremely important. It really is. I mean, we represent the young workers of Scotland, and we hope to get more young people involved. So if there's anybody interested, just get involved with your unions and get involved, and we can take it further and get our voices heard.
The STUC Youth Committee was formed in 1938, and it wasn't universally welcomed by the whole trade union movement. Some people felt that maybe young people were too feckless and irresponsible to have their own committee, but over time it certainly established its credentials, and it's now a major part of the trade union movement in Scotland. I think the issues that the STUC Youth Committee have been involved in, they've been famous, I think, for 2 issues. They've been famous for equality issues and also issues on internationalism. I think if you look at the history of the Youth Committee, it was a Youth Committee that moved the first motion on the Vietnam War in 1969 opposing the Vietnam War. They were very active in opposing the apartheid regime in South Africa, so international protest has been a big part of the Youth Committee. And I think the other element has definitely been the equality element. Obviously young people are closer to the changes in society. They maybe are on the ground and they can see how the social attitudes are changing. So again, they've been a very, very positive voice for the equality agenda. And the STUC, for example, they moved the equal pay motion years before the STUC moved it. They moved issues on gay rights and gender equality years before the main Congress did it. So in many ways, they've actually been ahead of the STUC in many of these issues, and I think that's why they bring a benefit not just to themselves, but I actually think they bring a bigger benefit to the STUC themselves, because what they do is they get a voice, they're an antenna to the changes in society that we wouldn't have if we didn't have a youth committee. So we've now got 3 generations of the youth committee gathered today, so I just want them to introduce themselves, so I'll move first.
Pat Egan, I was in the youth committee during the 1980s.
Geraldine Donnelly, present day youth committee.
And Roseanne Foyer, I was in the youth committee in the 90s.
Well, obviously the youth committee has been very famous for the sort of campaigning work that it's done over the years, and it's covered many issues. So what we're going to look at is maybe just one issue that each generation of the youth committee covered. So I'm going to start with Pat. Pat, could you maybe tell us some of the issues that you campaigned on?
One of the issues we campaigned on was for the release of Nelson Mandela, who at that time was viewed as a terrorist by the establishment in the UK.
And what sort of things did you do to take that campaign forward?
We took that campaign forward using many formats, leaflets, going to conferences, submitting motions to conferences, through music and theatre as well, was very popular at that time. Glasgow Council renamed a street after Nelson Mandela. That all put pressure on.
South African government?
Yeah.
Geraldine, maybe you want to talk about a present campaign that you've been involved in?
One of the campaigns that we've been doing just now is the Living Wage campaign, and typically that's around the fact that low pay is still a major issue for workers, particularly young workers in Scotland, and really it's a call not just for further legislative change, but looking at employers, and we've been doing that in conjunction with the STUC.
Brilliant. Ross, maybe one campaign that you were involved in not so very long ago?
One of the probably most momentous things that we were involved in the late 90s was the campaign for a Scottish Parliament. Particularly the Youth Committee got very involved in the campaign to have more women represented in the Parliament, and there was a big 50-50 campaign for equal gender representation in the Parliament. So we did things like, we had leaflets with the kind of Charlie's Angels logo on them that said Girl Power 50-50, and we used to go out to a lot of kind of concert venues and festivals and do quite a bit of awareness raising about the importance for young people of voting if they'd never voted before, and just trying to inspire them that a Scottish Parliament would make a difference, that they should use their vote, and that if they were young women they should get involved, have a voice, and that women have got an equal right to representation at all levels in our democracy.
That's absolutely fantastic. I mean, just really a final question. The Youth Committee has always been famous for this campaigning. I mean, what added value do the youth value bring, do you think, to the STUC?
It brings the continuity of a trade union movement, because to be a movement you must continually move, and that must continually bring in young people and be a place for young people's views to be heard.
Geraldine?
I think it just gives empowerment to young people, and like Pat says, gives a vehicle that issues that young people are facing, then we can drive them forward and hopefully make a difference.
Ross?
I think that it's a great thing for the STUC to have, because they can actually put people up for their campaigns, you know, in media interviews and things, who are young, that young people will relate to and identify with when the STUC is trying to put its issues forward. And at the end of the day, unions should be about shaping the future, and who better to get involved in doing that than young people themselves.